It's the morning drive.
Good morning, and welcome to the Morning Drive. I'm your host, Brooks Fiesinger of BrooksFiesinger.com and MillionaireWho.com, where we help you stabilize your wallet, secure your future, and succeed in entrepreneurship and finance. All right, let's get on the road. So what are we discussing today? We got a few things to discuss, but mainly we are discussing the idea of does it take money to make money? All right, you're going to hear both sides. There's going to be people that complain. They say they cannot succeed because it takes money to make money. Then you're going to hear other people that say, what are you talking about? You don't need money to make money. And the question is, who's telling the truth, right? Does it take money to make money, or do you need money, or do you not need money to make money, right? I mean, that's a big question. Does it take money to make money? In which case, if you don't have money, you got a problem, right? Or do you need money to make money? Now, like in many cases, the truth is here, there's some truth to both, right? There's truth to both. So it does take money to make money, but you don't need money to make money. Whoa. What? What's the difference there, right? How can it take money to make money, but you don't need money to make money? I mean, isn't that a confusion, right? Is that confusing? I hope it is confusing because, you could argue that's just down to semantics, but frankly, it is, it's just, you got to understand what's going on. And once you understand, it makes complete sense. Now, to put it in perspective, I have failed a whole bunch of companies, and one of the leading causes of my failures has been a lack of money, right? And it's kind of funny, frankly, because today I'm engaged in businesses and ways to generate money that aren't that complicated, right? The more money you have, the easier it is to make a lot more money. I don't think there's any question about that. If you have $1 billion, you can put $1 billion in the stock market and make millions of dollars pretty easily, right? It's not that much of a challenge. Heck, you could probably take billions and put it in a bank and make millions. Again, it's not that challenging to make millions of dollars when you have billions. But if you have $5, how do you make $1 million from $5? Is it possible? Yes, but it's not easy. So the problem that I end up seeing a lot of people run into is they sit there and they say, okay, look, I could make I want to make millions of dollars, but I only have $5. So what do I do? Or I don't have any money. I don't have a penny. What do I do? And the idea of having millions of dollars seems so far away, so distant from having millions. Millions and $5 are so far apart. The idea that you can get millions is almost unbelievable. And that's the real problem. That's what we're talking about, because if you have $1 million, you're not going to have any trouble making that second million. When you have $5 and making $1 million is so near impossible. And you've heard people say that, the first million is the challenge. Once you get past that first million, you can make your billions of dollars. I mean, realistically, it's not impossible. It's not that much of a challenge to go get your billions of dollars once you have the millions of dollars. The challenge is your first million. So if you kind of break it down, you sit there and say, look, I want to be a billionaire, or I don't, whatever your goal is. Your goal could be $1 million, your goal could be $1 billion, your goal could be 100. Whatever your goal is, right? That goal seems so far away. You sit there and think, I don't know how I can get my $1 million or my $1 billion. But let me walk you back for a minute, okay? If you wanted $1 billion, and hopefully you want less, but say you want $1 billion, right? Great for you. If you want $1 billion, how do you get there? Well, I'll tell you right now, the first step to getting $1 billion is to get $1 million, okay? Once you get to $1 million, I don't have any doubt you're gonna have trouble getting to $1 billion, right? The only enemy you're gonna have is time. Can you do it fast enough? So the question is, okay, if you can turn $1 million into $1 billion, then how do you get that first million? That's when things get a little trickier, right? So how do you get your first million? Well, I'll tell you right now, your first $100,000 is more difficult than the next $900,000. So focus on getting that $100,000. Now, if $100,000 sounds daunting to you, I'll tell you right now, the first $10,000 is easier than the next $90,000. So therefore, focus on getting that $10,000. Now, for many of you, you're thinking, hey, I already have $10,000. But for others of you, you're thinking, whoa, $10,000? $10,000 is out of the realm of possibility. If $10,000 is out of the realm of possibility for you, then again, the first 1,000 is the toughest, right? So if you get that first 1,000, the next 9,000 aren't that challenging. And then, once again, is 1,000 a lot? The first 100 is the most difficult. Is 100 a lot? The first dollar is the most difficult. Once you get that first dollar, you can turn that first dollar into millions or billions. It's all a matter of time and how to do it quicker. So the fact of the matter is, it does take money to make money, either other people's money or your own money, right? But you don't need money to make money. So the challenge is, you can go make your first $5 or $10 pretty easily. Can you sell something in your house? Seriously, I mean, I would be hard pressed to think that if you're listening to this, you can't get $5. I don't care if it takes you a month, 6 months. You can get $5. You can do chores for somebody. You can mow the neighbor's lawn. You can sell something you don't need in your house. You can, fix something you have and sell it. You can borrow $5 from a bank. You can use $5 on a credit card that you then have to pay back. I mean, you can get access to money, and you can use that money to generate more money, right? So, here's kind of the analogy that I like the most. All right, imagine you can save $5 at work, okay? And you use that $5 from your job that you saved, that you didn't spend on other stuff. Maybe you forgone, went out to eat or something like that, right? So you save an extra $5. And then what do you do with that $5? Well, it takes that $5 to go buy the hats online that you resell for $50, right? And it takes that $50 that you get for selling the hats to buy the website domain that you turn into $60,000. And it takes that $60,000 from selling the website that you put in the stock market that over several years grows to $110,000, which you then use as the down payment on the real estate that you sell for $1.3 million or 150 or something like that, right? So say you resell that for $700,000, okay? So you take the $700,000 real estate that you just sold and you use that to found a company that generates $6 million. And that $6 million company is then powerful enough to buy out a company that's worth $500 million. And that $500 million company can be grown to the point where it's a $1.3 billion company. Now you've got $1.3 billion company that can do things that you never dreamt of doing about $5, but it took that $5 to get there, right? So way too often we get so blinded, so frustrated over the fact that the goal doesn't seem realistic. How do I get that $500,000? How do I get that $1 million? How do I get that $1 billion? That we throw away $5, right? That $5 is your entry to get to the billions, right? So as you make money, it's easier to make more money. Right now I can enter in a deal that's $30,000, $50,000 down payment, and I don't think twice about it. I'll tell you right now, 10 years ago, I couldn't do a $30,000 or $50,000 down payment. Therefore, I couldn't have gotten in there. 15 years ago, a $1,000 down payment had me nervous. I could barely do it. $100 down payment would have made me think twice. Well, guess what? If you're putting 20% down on something, $100 doesn't buy much. Buys you what, $2,000? But $100,000 as 20% down buys you $500,000, right? And if you can get somebody else to pay that note off, say for example you buy an apartment complex, a $500,000 apartment complex, and frankly, now that I've got experience, I've got banks offering me 10% down. So say for example you put $50,000 down on a $500,000 property, okay? What happens in 25 years? That $500,000 property is yours. You can sell it. You can get $500,000. Who's making the payments to take it from $50,000 to $500,000? Your tenants are, okay? Now, frankly, when it comes down to it, you're not going to wait the 25 years to get your $500,000 out. What you're going to do is you're probably going to leverage equity in the short term right? And that equity that you have in the short term, you're then going to use and leverage even further. So yes, you've got your tenants paying off your $500,000 property. So it's not you paying it off, but on top of that, in just a couple of years, you generate enough equity that you can tap into that equity and go buy another property. And I'm just talking real estate here because the same idea here works with stocks. The same thing goes with bonds. The same thing works with buying websites, with selling stuff. I mean, selling stuff is really just, if I can go buy stuff for $100 and sell it for $500, right? I still need that $100 to buy. And yeah, there's other ways around like drop shipping and stuff like that, but you still need the money to either set up a website, or you need to set up a system, or you want to hire people, or put in your own blood, sweat, and tears, which is fine. I've done plenty of blood, sweat, and tears. But I think it's a struggle when people think either one of those extremes. If you think you can't make money because you don't have money, you're going to settle for failure. And we don't have time to settle for failure. I don't want you to settle for failure. You shouldn't want to settle for failure yourself. At the same time, if you think that it doesn't take any money to make money, and therefore you're just going to borrow from somebody else, or you're going to, there's a car that's driving like a crazy. If you decide that you don't need money to make money, and therefore you're just going to go the venture capital route, and you're going to have a great idea, and you get other people to buy in. That's fine. That works for some people. But I'll argue that that's equally as strugglesome. That's equally as challenging. You're going to dedicate 10, 20 years of your life, and it's like playing the lottery, and you're going to risk the chance of ever seeing fruition, and you're going to give up massive amounts of ownership, and you'll be lucky to see much of it, if anything. Say it takes 10 years to turn your company into a $10 million company. You got a great idea, right? You own 25% of the company. And in the meantime, you're taking no salary or very little salary. And you decide to get venture capitalists. And your venture capitalists take 90% of your company, and they give you the $1 million it takes to start. Great, right? So in 10 years, you sell your $2.5 million or $10 million company, and 10% of that goes to the owners is $1 million, right? You own 25% of that, that's $250,000, okay? So now you got $250,000. $250,000 for 10 years of work is $25,000 a year, and that doesn't even include the fact that you've got to discount your time by the time value of money changing, right? So money's worth less tomorrow than it is today. So you've essentially worked for $12,000 to $15,000 a year for 10 years, and yeah, it might be cool, it might be your dream, and if it is your dream, go after it. I'm all about going after your dreams, but from a financial reward, your $10 million company is netting you, $20,000 a year. You're almost better off taking the slower approach of making $40,000 or $50,000 a year and investing that money in assets that grow, because then at least you get both the $20,000, $25,000 a year, and after 10 years, you've got an asset to speak for, right? You own property, or you own a smaller business or something. And I went to school and I learned entrepreneurship and really went from the mentality of go big, go big or go home. The idea of running a, billion-dollar company or something like that sounded awesome to me, and it seemed very clear to me the way they taught it in school was how you get there. It's you come up with a great idea, you put together a great business plan, you pitch your business plan, and then one of these venture capitalists is going to love your business plan. They're going to give you the money, and you're going to give up some ownership. A big deal, because your idea is going to come. But what they don't talk about is, seriously, you give up everything. You give up control, you give up your company, you give up your reward, and not only are you giving that up, you're putting a heck of a lot of time and effort in there for what? And if you've got some world-changing thing that's really going to make the world a better place, maybe you suck it up. Maybe you say, hey, I'll take nothing because the world's going to be better. Great, do it. Give up everything you have to make the world a better place. I'm not going to argue about that at all. I fully support, sacrificing to make the world a better place. But recognize that that's what you're doing, because maybe you can make the world a better place in a different way. Maybe there's an easier way to make the world a better place. Maybe the easier way to make the world a better place is to get a normal job for a few years and work on some side gigs. And with those side gigs, generate enough money, to ultimately fund your project, so you're not a victim of somebody else. And I don't want to say I'm against venture capital. I love venture capital. I like venture capital. I like angel investing. I support all those projects. But people who are getting into it for the first time, they don't realize the ramifications of that. And if you're young and you're inexperienced and you've got an idea, you are in the worst possible bargaining position. You can't get a loan from a bank. You're going to fully rely on venture capitalists. The venture capitalists aren't idiots. They had to be smart to get to where they are. The venture capitalists know the high level of risk, and they know that being young and inexperienced raises that risk. So in exchange for that increased risk, they're going to ask for more ownership and higher guarantees. And that's fine. I fully respect that. I would do the same thing, and I do the same thing if I invest. But the idea being that if you can't afford, if you don't have the experience, can you afford to give up everything to get that money? Because again, it takes money to make money. It doesn't mean you need money to make money. And for some of you, it's worth every moment, but for most of you, you're gonna realize it's not. I made that mistake, right? I had a few businesses that I started with early on, and I'll tell you right now, they all failed because I didn't have the money. Fiesinger Motors Motorcycle Group. Great business idea. I thought I was gonna be able to get an SBA loan. I even got pre-approved for the SBA loan, ran into some issues with the real estate, and when I ran into issues with the real estate, boom, I lost the ability to get the loan, right? Because I couldn't file again. And that shot me in the foot, but it really came down to money. I didn't have the money. And even if I would have gotten that SBA loan, I don't know if I would have been successful because I didn't have the money to float the investment necessary. They say to start a business, it takes billions of dollars. You can look at Tesla. And Tesla is really the only successful attempt at a mass production vehicle that's come out in the recent history, right? And Tesla is still not profitable. They are dumping massive amount of cash into the hope that someday they are profitable. And not only are they not profitable, but they are having to go, even after massive initial investments, they're still having to get more and more and more investments from investors because they need that money from investors in order to have the money to pull it off. And maybe Tesla will be successful, maybe they won't. But it is a long time coming, a huge investment, and they're still not profitable, right? So the idea of starting Fiesinger Motors Motorcycle Group and coming out with these electric motorcycles, I had 3 new inventions. I had a new drivetrain, this nice transmission design, new battery technology. I was gonna be able to come to the market and undercut some other competitors through the competitive advantage that I was deriving. And I still to this day think it could work. But I wasn't being realistic at what ramp up is. I went to college, I went to one of the top entrepreneurship programs in the nation and had great faculty and great education. But I left there thinking, okay, this isn't that hard. But it is. Who's gonna pay for the staff? Who's gonna pay for how long it takes to get your first sales? Who's gonna pay for the mistakes that you make? How are you gonna get volume ramped up, right? I mean, your first bike's gonna cost you $500,000. Where's that $500,000 going to come from? And yes, the SBA was going to fund my building. It was going to fund the equipment. And I had just enough income on the side that I was probably going to be able to cover the SBA loan. But to earn that income on the side was going to take me away from the ability to build these bikes. And that's the issue that I was running into. So, I'm really sitting here facing this fact where I'm hopeful that I could make it work, and it tanked because I didn't have the money to make it happen right. And I lost some money on the deal. I definitely lost money, even though the SBA loan thing didn't work out and the project ultimately imploded. I've talked before about active word fonts and how that was my biggest failure ever. And again, if I had more money on that project, it would have succeeded. I worked my rear end off to afford the patent and all that kind of fun jazz. And I spoke in another podcast about all the reasons why it ultimately failed. And it's true. I could try it again and I probably could have made it successful. Maybe today I could make it successful. But the biggest issue wasn't the patent costs. I was just looking at those hard costs. Where was the money to get a sales team out there to pitch in it? Where was the money to hire those people, right? Where was the money to put together final packages and enhance the product even further and get it in front of Microsoft? And where was the money to take 6 months off of work so that I could go travel to Google and travel to Microsoft and Adobe and get in front of them and make them listen to me? That takes a lot of money, and it's sad to say it because we love this entrepreneurial dream that you can do it without money, and you can do it with money. But I raise the question, is it worth it? Is that the best usage of your effort? Would I have been better off saving some money, investing some in real estate, and investing some other cheaper projects until I had enough money to do it right. Then I could have done it right, and when I finished, I'd be sitting there with a successful business. I could be sitting on $150 million right now, instead of it being something I talk about as my biggest failure. And I learned from it, and I hope you can learn from my experience as well. So it's not all bad. I don't have regrets for it. But just because I don't have regrets for it doesn't mean it was the smartest move. And often we take a moment and we don't like the idea of, investing small. We like the idea of go big or go home. We love the idea of, becoming a multi-billionaire, through one big project instead of a bunch of small things. But most of the really successful people I know, they do run their own business, but they save up the money, they build up the money, and they escalate. They start with one location and then they grow it to 2 locations. They turn their 2 locations into 10 locations. They don't just go big home or go home. And there are people that do go big or go home. There's no question about it. It happens. But even look at something like the Facebook story. How many people were involved in the Facebook story that didn't end up like Mark Zuckerberg? How many of those people devoted their time and their effort and their lives, and then when it was all said and done, left with nothing? I know so many people that were part of great business plan launches. They were part of the plans, they put things together, and 10 years later, when the company's finally successful, they had to exit. Maybe they had a kid and they couldn't afford to live off of nothing. Maybe they had a health problem. There's so many things that can come up. And if you think about it, for that one success story, just in the same business, there could be 50 people who didn't end up the same way. So again, I'm not trying to discourage people from the idea of chasing some of these awesome goals and some of these big businesses, but I want you to really think about where you're trying to go and think about, what is the best way to get there. And the best way to get there probably isn't, relying completely on somebody else. It's using your own money to make more money, and using that money to make more money, and using that money to make more money. Now, I like the business route more than I like the finance route, but we've been discussing over the last several episodes finance and talking about the strategies that people use to generate massive amounts of finance. I like finance because, once again, in the stock market and whatnot, you can make a very good return. You can make a better return than you can make in others. However, I still think you can make a much bigger return in the business world by focusing not just on investments. I do have investments, but in addition to investments, focus on investments that you have control over. I like the ability to control my investments. So that means instead of relying on a broker, or relying on a stock market, or a business that I don't have any direct control over, instead, I'm focusing my attention on businesses that I do have direct control over. And since I have direct control over it, I can actually influence it. And those are the ones that I can see an even better return on than these ones that you hear about, or these ones that you're investing in stock market in. So, I really like running your own business. So I'm not talking you out of that. But even the ones that get the best funding from venture capitalists, the ones that blow up, they tend to start a little smaller. They build the money they need to get big instead of going all big all the time. And so again, does it take money to make money? Yes. Do you need money to make money? No. So make money and then use that money to make more money, and use that to make more money, and use that to make more money. Now, I gave you 2 examples, the FMG cycles, and then I also talked about active word fonts. And I'll tell you right now, that's not the only ones. I've had so many other projects that have done it. And I'm involved in one right now where I finally realized that I'm not going to invest the money into it. I'm not going to put the money it takes to be successful. And so that is also a challenge. Let's use the example of supplements, for example. So, why am I using supplements? And that's because there's a good chance that those of you who are watching this have actually read or listened to one of the gurus that's pretty popular that specifically talks about how he got started in the supplement business. And I look at business listings all the time, and there's quite a few of them who say that they followed this guru's advice in order to sell their supplements just like he did. So I'm using supplements because this is one of those examples where people think, okay, I can get into this business with barely anything out of pocket, just like they did, and I can do a really easy workload. I can just work part-time and build this whole business up on itself online, and it's going to make tons of money, and life is great, right? Now, can you make money with supplements? Yes. And I don't want to suggest for a minute that it's not a viable business. It is. If that's your thing, go do it, right? Supplements can be beneficial to people. I don't have much doubt at all that there's value in it. I'm sure there's a lot of them that overpromise and underdeliver, and I'm sure there's other ones of them that are completely grounded and valid and great. So, I don't have a problem with the supplement business, but say, for example, you wanted to get in the supplement business. Sit there and say, okay, I'm going to build a supplement business. What does it cost to get in? Now, most of you are going to get really excited about this idea called either white labeling or drop shipping. Now, if you're drop shipping, maybe, for example, you're not even selling your own supplements, you're just creating a storefront, that has a very low cost, and that is legitimately a business with very low cost. However, it still takes a lot of work, and the rewards are limited because your margins are slim. And the reason why your margins are almost always going to be slim is because you're ultimately competing with other people to sell the same products. So if you are selling, supplement A and 100 other people are selling supplement A, then you've got to figure out how to get the right placement, promotion, and price to get that business. The challenge with price is you can't necessarily undercut other people because they're dealing with the same wholesale supplier price that you are, which creates kind of a challenge. So therefore, you might settle for 5% margins, sometimes even way less. You might take 2% margins. Now, some people are going to say that's great, it's worth it because you're drop shipping, but take for a minute and assume that you didn't drop ship and instead you had your own supplements. On your own supplements, maybe white label ones, you could be making 40, 50, 60, 80% margins. Now, for every sale, all your effort, the amount of work that you put into for a sale, you can make, say, 10 times the amount of money. Well, your time has value, right? And if you can make 10 times the amount of money for the same amount of work, that's plus. But what's the negative? Well, to do white labeling, you need money up front because you're going to have to work with the companies, and then you're going to have to invest in your own branding and your own labeling, and then ultimately you're going to have to buy minimums. And I've talked to people and been involved with supplements a little bit. I'm not a big supplement seller, but supplements a little bit. And the minimums are often, 100,000, 10,000, And so say, for example, it costs you $10 a bottle and you only have to buy 1,000, right? That's $10,000 cash you need up front in order to get that supplement business rolling. Think about that for a minute, okay? Is $10,000 a lot of money? Yeah, it can be. For some of you, you're like, hey, $10,000 is nothing, but that's because you already have the money. But if you don't have $10,000, that's a challenge. So you're going to try to go on the cheap. How do you do it on the cheap? It's difficult to go on the cheap. And then say, for example, you go borrow $10,000 on your credit card. Well, then how are you going to pay for marketing? How are you going to pay for advertising? How are you going to go build that brand? So is it possible? Yeah, but it's really, really tough. And so once again, supplements are one of those things that people view as being a business that somebody can go into with nothing. And really, you do need something. The problem is, by the time you even see moderate levels of success, $10,000 isn't a deal breaker, right? You can handle the $10,000. The problem is that, for many of you, you don't have that $10,000. $10,000 is a stretch. So my response to you is focus on the $100. What can you buy for $100 that you can turn into $10,000, right? And that's where you should be able to focus your attention on. Because I'll tell you right now, even if you get the supplement business started for $10,000, you sell it for $500,000, you're probably not going to start another supplement business. At that point, you're going to be like, okay, I've got $500,000. What can I invest $500,000 in to make $50 million, right? The game changes. You learn a lot from each level of the game, but the game changes at each layer you go to. So, again, for most people, you're going to discover the best approach for you isn't going to be to put all your eggs into some super crazy dream and sacrifice your entire life for it and pray every day that you don't die or go bankrupt or, whatnot. Because I know plenty of people who started businesses and they were frankly miserable. And some of them ended up succeeding. So I don't want to say you can't succeed. Many of them did succeed, but many of them failed. I know a whole bunch of very smart, talented people with great ideas who ended up with nothing. right? And so, if you end up with nothing, but you give up 20 years of your life or 10 years of your life, that's tough. And we don't talk about those people because we don't celebrate those people, but that's a lot of people. And those who I know, the vast majority of people who are really successful are really the ones who, made money, then used that money and turned it into more money, and used that more money to turn it into even more. Back to the Tesla example. Where did Elon Musk get his money? Right? He didn't start, Tesla in college. He got most of the startup capital from his other business enterprises. That's the point that we're talking about, right? That's the whole idea. The whole idea being that yes, you can start something, but should you? Can and should are very different questions. And when you discover how easy it is to turn $10 into 20, super easy, right? I did that all the time with car parts. I'd buy a car part for $3 and sell it for $10. That's easy. You can do it like clockwork, right? Anyone who wants to buy that business from me can call me up and buy that business from me for like $50, although I'm sure by the time someone does it, I won't even have the context anymore. But seriously, that's easy to do. There's no challenge in making, $10 from $3. Well, you do that 100 times and you just made, $300, wait, I do say, what did I say, do 100 times. You do that 100 times, you've got yourself $1,000. Okay, now you got $1,000. What can you do like that for $1,000? So maybe instead of turning, $3 into $10, now you're turning $100 into $200. Okay, you do 1,000 of those, and now you have $100,000. Now you're talking about turning $10,000 into $100,000. Do that 1,000 times, and now you're a millionaire. So, well, we're a millionaire, but think about that, because that is often a much easier approach to take, because you can do more when you have the money, right? You don't, the risk doesn't hurt you as bad. If you have $10,000 and you lose that $10,000, you're back to where you started. You're not negative. You're not worse off. And, you're not giving up the ownership. You're not giving up the equity. You're not adding that extra layer of challenge. Most businesses fail, and that's the truth of the matter. I've failed a ton of times, and I'm lucky I have not tried to fund a business with debt, because then I'd be spending 10 years digging out of debt. And I don't have a problem with investing with other people and whatnot, but you got to be careful, because once again, I've failed on so many companies it's not funny, and yet my successful companies have more than made up for all the failed companies. And that's kind of the important takeaway here. So the important takeaway is, if you use money to make money, right, you're going to go a lot further than if you try to do it without. But for those of you who think you need money to make money, you don't. You don't need money. Start with that $3. Start with that $5. I gave you the $5 example, but no joke, I did $30. And some of the other low dollar businesses I did were, vinyl cutting. It cost me $200 for a vinyl cutter, and I was able to spit out vinyl graphics for companies all over the country. Web design, I bought a $20 book to teach me how to do HTML programming. And, 25 years ago, I was doing HTML programming for businesses. That wasn't that challenging. Now today, my time is worth a lot more. You're up in the ante. My time is worth more. My money is worth, I don't want to say my money's worth more, but, I don't get excited about making $7. Now, I don't waste $7, but I don't get excited about $7. So I'm not going to go sell something, buy something for $3 and sell it for $10. It's not worth it for $7, because I've got enough money to go take $1,000 and turn it into $100,000, or $50,000 and turn it into $500,000. That's where I want to focus my attention on. And I'm hoping when I talk to you in 10 years, I'm not going to care about a $50,000 deal anymore. Instead, I'm going to be dealing with $500,000 deals and turning $500,000, or maybe more than that, maybe $5 million deals, and turning $5 million deals into $50 billion deals. That's my point, right? So your perspective changes as you step up the ranks and as you make more and more money. I don't care about the $3 anymore, but for many of you, you do. So earn that $3, right? Take that $3 and turn them into 10. Take that $10 and turn it into 100. Turn $100 into 1,000. 1,000 into 100,000. 100,000 into your million. Your million into 10 million. Your 10 million into 100 million. 100 million into a billion. Go realize your dreams, right? But you don't have to do it all in one big hit. You don't have to go play the lottery. You might as well play the lottery if that's what you're going for, right? You don't have to try to win it all in one hit. Play within your means, but use your money as a tool, as an asset to generate more money. Just like finance, just like we were talking about. You can do that with the stock market. But you can also do it outside of the stock market. You can do it in your own business. It's not that hard to do that. I was working on a deal the other day that was going to involve buying a property and splitting that property into two and doubling the value. I mean, how hard is that to do? That's pretty easy. Double the value by buying a property and splitting it into two? Well, guess what? It's hard to get a loan for a property with 30 acres of land. But I could do it cash. So that opens up doors that other people don't have. So you want to use those kind of opportunities to your benefit because other people don't have $200,000. Do you? If not, get there. Don't worry about the $100 million. I mean, yeah, have the goal. I'm all for having the goal. Keep the goal, end goal in mind. But realize that making that $200,000 is a big step in making the million. And making the $10,000 is a big step in the $200,000. Making the $5 is a big step towards a million. All right. All right. Hopefully you took something away from that. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today. So, once again, does it take money to make money? Yes, it takes money to make money, but do you need money to make money? No, you don't need money to make money. Hope I've been able to clarify this concept to you. Some other things I want to cover real quick. I apologize for if you're watching this on video, we've had some video problems. I'm going to try to get that situated, but the audio seems to be working fine. So the audio is okay. This is the second time I recorded this podcast. The first time, for some reason, I didn't even have audio. So I've been running some issues. I need to get a better camera set up again. I know I already bought one new setup. I think I need to do it again. If I got any experts out there who know how to do good recordings in vehicles, certainly reach out to me and help me get set up. As I said, I've been having some of those little issues, and I apologize for that. But hopefully, you're still finding this valuable. You enjoyed some of our special guests. We'll get some more special guests in on here too. Also, make sure my special guests get some other value adds added to our website. I know I've got a lot of experience, a lot of broad experience, but I'm not an expert in everything. And you could devote yourself to real estate and you're still not going to be an expert in everything. So that's kind of the cool thing about the financial world is, you've got beginners and then you've got intermediates, and you've got experts, but there's nobody that's an expert in everything. So I'm hoping you learned something from being able to bring in some more of these finance experts. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Those are really good at stock markets, and I'll try to get some more special guests like that in there soon. All right, once again, hopefully you learned something today. Now go out there and make the impossible happen.
It's the morning drive.